Everybody, welcome. Happy Sunday night, 90 Day Fiance Sunday night. Um, we're gonna talk about Before the 90 Days, which aired. I watched it on TLC Go tonight. Last when I was in Texas, I watched it on TLC Go, and there was no commercials, but I watched it on TLC Go tonight. High Wheels, and there was commercials. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out a way to watch it without commercials. I have not been able to. So if anyone knows, send me a DM because talking about episode 6 of this episode before the 90 days, episode 6. So let's get Gina in here. Hey,
Hi.
how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. So I'm pretty excited about this episode. It was pretty crazy, right? Like I feel like Renee was really showing us her level of crazy tonight. So I definitely want to get into that. And also I've noticed a lot of Tiger Lily scenes tonight. You know,
God.
she's been really insufferable to me, right? Like I don't know what it is about her. She just really irritates me. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's I don't know the fake voice or I don't know what it is about her, but she just irritates. And it's hard for me to even take her seriously because Tiger Lily isn't a real name. So I feel like she has like a video game character name, and I'm just trying to like take her seriously. And then every time she opens her mouth, it gets more and more absurd. Like
I
everything that
I just want to say STFU. Like, please just go away. Get off my screen. Like, I'm done. I'm over it. I'm
I
over it.
I feel the same way. Like she's giving me such like, and I told you this before. I was like, I don't think that it's possible that she's really that dumb. But I'm retracting my statement because okay, so tonight we were watching and they were going to Petra, which is a beautiful city, one of the 7 wonders of the world. I googled it; it looks amazing. I've never been, and they were going there, and he wanted her to be ready in 30 minutes, which in Tiger Lily's defense, I don't know many women, any women, honestly, that you can say, "Hey, we're gonna leave and take photos and go somewhere, be ready in 30 minutes." That's not a thing. But again, Adnan is new to women, right? He's selling to us that he's a virgin. He's never really had a girlfriend, so he doesn't really know how women specifically work. So he was under the impression it was going to take her 30 minutes. It in turn took 4 hours. Now let's get real because I had this poll on Twitter. A lot of women said 4 hours is completely unacceptable and outrageous. You agree with that, right?
Yeah. It takes me literally an hour to get ready for work. Like, I wake up at 5:45. I'm out the door by like 6:50, and I will still have breakfast. Or if I'm in a hurry, or if it's Monday, I'll take my breakfast to go. But he claims to be a model. I'm sure
Yeah.
he's modeled with male and female models before, and he knows it's a process.
Yeah, I mean, being a model, he should know that like when you're getting ready for a photo shoot and you have makeup people, artists there and hair, when they want a certain look, it takes time to create a look, right? Like a model will show up, but then the photographer or whoever will have a certain look or style that they want that person to portray, and that takes time. And you know, giving a woman 30 minutes to get ready, like I can get ready in 30 minutes if you take my phone away and I really, really work at it, right?
I
But
can
I
get ready
prefer
in
to have.
30 minutes if I'm going to the grocery store,
Well, right,
or to the gym,
right. I'm
but
not gonna
not.
be taking pictures, you know, or anything like that. Because sometimes it takes me like 20 minutes just to figure out what I want to wear. Because I'll like try on things and then I don't like the way it looks, and then I'll try on something else, and then it's like a process, right? So I know that I need to give myself more time. So Tiger Lily, I guess, wakes up whenever they wake up because they partied the night before. And again, when you're gonna be up late drinking, you don't really plan
But they
early
don't
X.
drink because they're Muslim. They're not supposed to drink.
Well, I'm pretty sure they were drinking, right?
Well,
Like
I'm just saying, like, like from what I've seen in the past, they don't drink alcohol.
I don't buy that.
I,
I'm
I,
pretty sure that
I
they were
don't buy that either because
the
my cousin got married to a Muslim guy, and at their wedding they had alcohol because I told them, you better have alcohol at your wedding or I'm not going.
well the way that they rolled out of bed. I've been there. I know what that's like. That's a hangover, right? Like
Amateurs, amateurs,
the way that they rolled
amateurs.
out of bed, I was like, they had a few drinks. So the excursion in itself. What a lot of people on Twitter also said, why would she get ready 4 hours worth of getting ready and makeup to sit in the car for like 4 or 5 hours, which was another thing that I was wondering as well. Why did it matter what she looked like if it was going to take them so many hours to get there? Like, I didn't understand that as well. And can't you get ready in the car? Like, remember we were watching The Single Life this past season, and Chantel, she got a date with the guy, I don't remember his name, and her squad got her ready in the van because the place was like 3 or 4 hours away. So they literally used that time to do her makeup, her hair, her weave, whatever she needed to do. I was like, so why did they just want to sit in the car and look at each other when they could have used that time? Like, I'm a person that maximizes my time,
But
right?
he
Like,
couldn't get ready in the car because his brother was there. And so her changing clothes and whatever, she wouldn't be able to do that.
well, I mean, just like hair and makeup. I feel like you can do
Okay.
hair and makeup in the car, right? Like, I felt like,
But if
I
you
don't know.
hot curlers or like, where are you going to plug it?
But
Unless it's like, well,
didn't we talk about this? Wasn't someone using a curling iron on the airplane or in the airport or something? Because weren't we talking about battery operated curling irons or something? I feel like we were just talking
oh
about that
yes,
recently.
yes, they did have a battery operated hair.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like in 2024, there's no reason why you should be wasting 4 hours in the car looking at each other. You could do so many other things.
Knowing they're dumbasses, they didn't bring in a freaking voltage converter to charge it.
Oh yeah, that's a thing. You're right. You're right. Okay, I get it. I get it. And I just felt like another thing that was really irritative to me tonight was Tiger Lily's use of the word double standard, right? Because I think if you look up Muslim or Islam in the dictionary, you're pretty much going to get the gist of the double standard, right? Like, it's not a new religion. It's not new to anybody. It's not new to us. Like, we've been watching 90 Day Fiance for a long time. So I'm trying to understand how she managed to marry a man who's a Muslim and knows zero about it, because she's criticizing it as though she feels like, well, I don't like that about your religion. Religions aren't negotiable. I don't know if a lot of people, I was raised in a religious cult. You know, there was a lot of crap in the religion I didn't care for. I didn't have the right to just go in and nitpick and criticize the stuff I didn't like. You take on a religion as a whole. And when you marry someone whose religion is their whole life, you know, as a Muslim man, I think we've said this before, their personality revolves around being a Muslim. They don't have like likes or dislikes or personalities. It's whatever fits into being a Muslim man. And, you know, she's like, oh, well, he gets to wear his shirt up. And I'm like, well, yeah, men don't have rules. That's why, have you ever heard a man on any show or anywhere in the world complain that they were a Muslim? No. Do you know why? Because it doesn't affect their life in any way. Their life is not altered in any way. They don't change anything. They don't have to limit themselves. They don't change how they dress. They don't change what they eat. Everything that they want to do. I mean, I guess the drinking part and the sex, no sex before marriage, that is a negative downside, right? Like, that is a negative downside. But I've never heard any man say that I'm a Muslim, but I'm going to leave this religion because I don't like it. I've never heard that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. Her voice just annoys me. She sounds like Minnie Mouse and other cartoons all put together, and I'm over it. I'm just
I, th-
over it.
I think it definitely is her voice that irritates me. I don't know. And I want to believe that she's acting stupider than she is. And I think that's what annoys me the most, because she's just like, I don't understand why he gonna have a shirt. I'm like, you definitely have to understand that he doesn't have rules and you do. That's literally like anyone who has even like remotely heard about the Muslim religion, you know that women are oppressed. They're told what they can and can't do. And she's like, well, I don't want to wear like a plastic bag or a garbage bag. And I was like, well, that's kind of the whole purpose of like the hijab. And you literally, the only thing in some countries where they're really, really strict, you can only see the woman's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Literally every other part of her is covered. And now she's in Jordan, right? She's in their country, and she's, you know, she's like, well, what's wrong with my outfit? And I'm like, well, you should be aware of your surroundings. You know, like, you're from Texas, you're from America, but you're not in America. You should be very respectful of the surroundings where you are. Don't just say, oh, well, I'm American, I can wear a shirt that has cleavage because I think it's okay. That's not where you are.
No.
And I think we saw that with Angela too, right? Angela would go to Nigeria and she's like, I'm American. And it's like, that's irrelevant where you are, because you have to respect the land and the rules where you are at specifically. Because yeah, everybody does different things, but I think it's super disrespectful to go to another person's country and try to do your own thing and just say, well, no one had told me, I didn't know that. Pick up your phone, open the Google app, and just Google what is life and culture like
Customs.
in Jordan, right?
Different customs, what people wear, what people should do, what people shouldn't do. And I told you, I think I said on your Twitter that um, quick, quick thought. I was in Lake Como in Italy. I went to a church. I was wearing it like a maxi dress. It was long. It showed my shoulders. And my girlfriend was wearing biker shorts with like a see-through top and a t-shirt. But because she was had her shoulders covered, no problem for her. For me, I had to get one of those like shawl thingies from them. And I'm like, but I'm Catholic. How is this? I'm like, oh. But I didn't know the church I was going into because it was just a tour and like we were able to do whatever. So my defense,
Well,
I'm a research person. If I would have known we're going into that church, I would have researched something before and
yeah,
put something
you were
together.
going to visit in like a tourist
Yeah.
capacity, right? Like it wasn't like, well, yeah, and you can't really plan ahead for everything,
No.
right? Like you don't know everything that you're going to experience. You can at least be proactive, but yeah, you didn't know that you needed to wear something covering your shoulders and your arms. You didn't know, and that's one thing. But you weren't marrying someone there, right? Like I feel
No.
like that's a huge commitment. And then she's like, well, how will these rules apply in the US? His religion is not location specific. I've said this a million times. I
Oh,
said this with Nicole and Mahmoud, because she's like, well, what about when we get to California? And I'm like, Nicole, he's a Muslim everywhere, right? Like it doesn't change with the zip code or area code that you're in. This is just who he is. And if you don't like Muslim practices and Muslim men, you probably shouldn't marry one, because they're not going to change the way that they feel based on the location that they are.
I think maybe she would just be like, oh, he'll be more westernized because we already know she's dumb as a rock. So maybe he'll be
There's
more
not very
westernized.
there's not very many westernized Muslims, right? Like I feel like they take their religion pretty seriously. You know, like there are people who are more Muslim than others,
Yeah.
but the core of it's pretty clear, you know, because especially with the men, because again, the men don't really have to change much. It's the women that have to change a lot. So they have no issue enforcing the rules because they're just an enforcer. They don't really have to change anything. Because I said this before on another podcast. If I had to pick a religion to be in, I would pick Muslim, right? I would pick Islam because I would be treated like a god, right? And I enjoy being treated like a god. I don't know who doesn't, you know, like I don't think that I would dislike that. But if a woman was looking to pick a religion, I would discourage that. You know, like I really would want her to be sure and understand what she would be giving up, because I feel like men and women should be able to live equally. And I know that that's not the preaching and practice of that religion, but I just believe that if I mean, I hate to agree with Tiger Lily, but if a rule applies to one, it should apply to the other.
Mm-hmm.
But in the defense of the religion, that's never been the case. And if you would have did a quick little search, you know, literally just read one little Wikipedia page, you would have knew that.
Rules don't apply to them, to men.
It don't. And it's crazy. Well, okay, I want to talk about Chitty's visit to the eye doctor. So he hadn't been to an eye doctor in 10 years. Does that surprise you? Because he said that he's been praying that there would be an innovation in medicine and science, that he would be able to regain his sight. And then we find out that he hasn't actually spoken or seen a doctor in 10 years. How would you know about the innovation or do you think blind people who are permanently blind don't need to go to the doctor? Like I don't know. I was kind of surprised that he hadn't been to the doctor at
I,
all.
I, I think they do, but I think like if they're blind, they do need to see routine, like get routine checkups, make sure it doesn't have other complications
Right.
involved. But again, I'm not an eye doctor. I'm not a medical professional. But with that being said, like it could be like medical. I'm not sure about the medical conditions in Nigeria, but we've seen in other African countries when what's her face from New Jersey or whatnot gave birth in that delivery room. Anyways, it probably is
Oh,
not up to. westernized standards such as North America or European standards. So there could be something out there that can fix his eyesight. It's just that there's not enough studies where he lives.
I'm pretty sure, right? Because they said that in the left eye, I believe it's glaucoma, which is not what he thought it was. Well, I think what he has in his right eye is different from the left because he had,
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what he said was in the right eye, but she said that she saw signs of glaucoma in the second eye. And that is something that can be true.
Cataracts.
Cataracts. Okay, yes. So glaucoma was in one and cataracts were in the other. Which, are you surprised that it's two different things going on? Because again, he did tell us it happened at two different times. So I was surprised that two separate issues were happening in his eyes and they happen at different times. It is really odd. The whole situation is just really odd to me.
Yeah. Well, the fact that she took off her tinfoil hat, Renee did, and brought him there, that you know, but anything else about her is kind of wonky. But yeah, I think just because their medicine is not as modern as ours, I think my dad had cataract eye surgery, and he's fine. We do laser eye like laser eye surgery, so people don't have to wear glasses anymore. Like there's so much advancement in the Western world, like I said before. So I just think there's something out there that can help them, but it could, like I said, it could be because there are two different things that are going on. So you would have to do one operation on one thing or fix one thing and then wait, see what the results are to that, and then do another thing. But the doctor did say that it would make him lose an eye, basically.
Well, yeah, that's scary. When I
Yeah.
heard that, I was like, that's not really that's not worth the risk.
Yeah.
But what the one thing that I was hoping for, that when they were delivering the information, I was like, well, what if he could just restore vision to one eye, right? Right?
Mm-hmm.
If they can just restore even partial vision to one eye, that would be a huge success. But another thing I was scared of when he said he hadn't been to the doctors for 10 years, because when you go to the doctor, they always tell you early detection of anything is key. So I was like, what if there was something that could have been done, but he waited too long? Because doctors always tell us the second you see or feel something, tell us. Because, with cancer and other serious issues, the earlier you detect it, the more likely they're able to help you. And I think
Yeah.
him waiting 10 whole years could be bad, right? Like maybe there was things that could have been done, but he might have waited too long.
It could be also a money issue as well, like not being able to afford to pay to see the doctor as well.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
So
It's expensive.
it's
Everything over there
unfortunate.
is expensive, and I think a lot of people don't realize. Like here, you could go get a retail job and make $12 to $15 an hour. It doesn't work like that over there.
No.
You're not gonna. And that's a skillless job, right? That's just an entry level job. They don't have that option in Nigeria and other countries where you could just go get a cashier job making $15 an hour. That's not a thing. So it's very possible that he just couldn't afford to go because Renee was like, wait, you haven't went in 10 years, I'm going to take you, which again, I thought that was great.
Mm-hmm.
But then she said when she found out that there wasn't much hope, she was like, oh, well, I'll be the brighter person in your life. Like I feel like she deep down doesn't want him to be able to see. And that really bothers me because I feel like how people have like a weird fetish, like some people are into only Asian women, or they're only into blonde women, or they're only into women with really big breasts. Like I feel like Renee has this weird fetish that she needs him to be blind. And I think that's the weirdest thing. I've never heard of anything like that, but I feel like the relationship's strongest foundation point is his eyesight not being there. Because every time she mentions it, she's like, "Oh, him being blind, I wouldn't be here. If he wasn't blind, this wouldn't work." And then when she got the news with him in the doctor's office, she's like, "Oh, well, I'll be the shining light for your life." Like it was like a relief to her that he wasn't going to be able to restore his eyesight. And I just feel like, as someone that you want to be with and love, you should always want the best for them. And if him getting his eyesight is the best for him, she should want that, right?
Exactly. But I also think maybe she's just saying that so then like he already knows that she's an ugly person inside and goes over the rockets. So him having the eyesight will be like, okay, she is in fact a Lulu. I see it. Like, get away from me. You're
I
psycho. You
I
talk to
think
chickens. I don't see your actions, so it's
I
hard to see what you're
definitely
doing.
think he is beginning to see that. Remember when she was talking about her chickens and she's like, oh, they have personalities, they talk back to me. And he gave her, it's funny because he can't see, but he gave her the weirdest look, the look on his face. He was just like, right? Like, and I was like, even a blind man can see this lady is not okay. Right? Like, I was like, look at him looking at her like she's crazy and can't even see her. Because this is how we've been looking at her since we've seen her on the show. We've been looking at her like, is she for real? You know, like, and I think that he's beginning to see. Well, she took aim at Victoria on this episode, right? His chitty sister, and she said that she had a weird intuition years ago that she was going to have major issues with someone's sister, and she feels like this was something that she knew years and years ago was going to happen. How do you feel about the intuition? You know, I've had deja vu where I saw something that happened like ahead of time. Do you think that's the same thing, or you think she's just
I
a
think
little
she's just a little delulu. The aliens probably came down and told her, and it's been like that since then. So
Well, I was worried for Renee when she started speaking recklessly about Victoria in her house. She's like, well, why you always look angry? Why you look so mad? I was like, see, that's not the way that you speak to a woman in her house at her table after she cooked for you and she's been nothing but hospitable to you. It's like, I would hate for Victoria to drag you across the floor. You know, and I was like, because I feel like this is where we're going. She's disrespectful, she's rude, and she's like, oh, I feel like she doesn't like me with Chitty. She probably doesn't, right? Like after you snapped at her at the market, and you the way that you treat him, the way they're always screaming. And oh, I want to ask you this though. Victoria asked if they were intimate, if they had had sex at the dinner table. So how do you feel about that? Because she felt like that was something disrespectful to ask. How do you feel? Like culture aside, is that something that you would ask? Like, would you ask if your brother and
no,
his girlfriend were intimate
la
together?
la 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 la. I don't even want to know. I don't even want to know. So no, that's really not a topic of discussion to discuss at the dinner table, and I ain't bringing that ish up, and neither is my brother. So we will leave our personal relationships outside of any conversations that we do have. So but she's just the overprotective sister because it's like almost like her son, like because
Well,
she's been taking care of him, right?
yeah.
So, but that's a little bit of a boundary that should not be discussed or
Yeah,
brought up.
it
So,
was that was my one gripe because I love Victoria. I think she's very kind,
yeah.
very hospitable, and putting your guard up is very important. I do have a sister, and she's dated some weirdos. Okay, so let's just be real. She has. So you have to put your guard up. When you love someone, you just have to. Sometimes it comes across as rude. It's more so, like you said, it's just being overprotective. But sometimes people bring weirdos around, and you're like, no, this isn't going to work. Like this weird person is not going to work in our family dynamic. And I think that Victoria, and also with Chitty being like someone that she's, like you said, a caretaker for, this is like her son, right? Her
Mhm.
older son that she takes care of, because let's be realistic, he can't go out and do things on his own. So she's taking
Exactly.
on that role. So she would need to trust Renee fully for Renee to take over that role. Because, like, for instance, if she has a son, right? Victoria has a son. She wouldn't trust Renee with her son because she doesn't even like her. So it's this exact same thing. She looks at Chitty as just her older, bigger son, and she needs to know that she can trust Renee. Renee said that she eats Hot Pockets and canned soup and reheats food. So this is an American thing, right? It is. We don't always cook from scratch. And, in countries like Africa, Nigeria, Lagos, Ghana, they cook everything from scratch. And it's like a cultural recipes. So that's a pretty big concern, because I think this came up with Emily and Kobe when he was moving to the US. He was like, I'm really worried about the food. Like, what will I eat? Because culturally, people from different parts of Africa, their food is very cultural based,
Mhm.
right? The things that they eat, the things that they cook, the recipes they use. So I think that it's very interesting that Renee's like, oh, I don't really know how to cook. So, okay, so question for you. Is it a deal breaker? So say you're dating someone, you find out that he can't cook. is that a deal breaker for you, or are you gonna look past it? Because like for me, I can cook. I grew up in Louisiana. I know how to cook Creole, so you don't need to cook for me. I can do that for myself. So how do you feel?
Um, it's not really a deal breaker, but if you're gonna want to eat your fast food and McDonald's and whatnot, we're gonna have a problem, and that's not gonna work. So I'm gonna stick with my healthy food, but like you need to learn how to cook something at least. Like you gotta woo me somehow, like with a romantic dinner once in a while, or make it look like you pulled a Miss Doubtfire and just got the food catered in and like
Well,
serve it. Like,
I think that,
but
and also cooking is like from the heart, and I think
exactly.
that it's a form of love. So when you are able to cook for people, I think that it's a bond. That's why families still eat together, right? My family will all fly and go together and eat on Thanksgiving, knowing that we don't get along, because eating together builds the bond, with those people. Also, I want to talk about food because Sunny made some curry for Vea when she arrived in Durban, and she wouldn't eat it. She wouldn't even taste it. So I want to talk to you about that because, a lot of people in a lot of cultures, when they cook for you, it is customary that you eat the food that they cook. And it is considered extreme disrespect to not eat the food that they prepare for you because, again, they cook it. It's through love. It's to show acceptance. It's to show, hey, you're a part of my family. I want you to enjoy the things that I enjoy. How do you feel about her just rejecting his food, not even trying it?
She's crazy. She doesn't know what she's missing. So curry is great, whether it be Asian curry, like from like China or Japan, or like Indian curry. It's all made differently, obviously,
Mm.
but like you said, there's a lot of love that goes into making food. So like it's heartbreaking. Like I'll go to other people's houses, try different foods, and I'll be like, I'll try it, and I will be honest with them because this is me. We're talking to. I'd be like, I'm not real. It's not for me, but thank you so much. I will not be eating any more of it. Do you have something
Right. I feel
else?
I would have ate like some of it, like for real. Like, okay, so somebody just brought up the snails. We're
Yes.
gonna get into the snails next. I would have ate some of it just to be kind, but okay, if somebody served me snails, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna eat it.
Oh,
I can't. I
George, you
can't
know
do
what you're
it.
missing.
I don't. I don't eat things that still look like, okay, so like octopus,
Oh,
or when people order the fish and it still looks like a fish, it still has eyes. I can't do that, Gina. I can't do that. I feel like it's looking at me. And like a snail or a frog,
oh,
or
oh,
I
George, you're like,
I'm
oh,
like a
but
16-year
you're
old
from
boy
the
when it
South. How can you not eat frog legs?
I'm like a 16-year-old boy when it comes to my food. I'm super picky and I don't want to try anything, especially if it still looks like it did when it was alive.
Frog legs taste like chicken.
Okay, so yeah, I'm from the South. I'm Creole, but I've never had frog legs. But okay, so I used to eat pig feet when I was younger.
My parents eat that too.
Yeah, pig feet, pig tail, pig lip. I used to eat
Yeah.
that, but when I was younger, I was way more adventurous, right? Like I would eat weird stuff. But like now as an adult, when Niles was eating the snails, I was like, wow,
Oh, so
I
good.
couldn't do it. What does it taste like? Please tell me. What
It
does it
depends
taste
on
like?
how it's cooked. It depends on how it's cooked because you can have them fried, like all like not in the shell, and they're fried in like an egg wash and like battered, mm. And some like chili oil on the top, and then
Is
I
it
don't under,
chewy? Like,
yeah, it's
give
kind of
me an
chewy.
idea. Is it chewy? Is it
Oh, I
crunchy?
haven't had them in so long because like whenever I eat them, I don't eat them here, but I eat them when I go back home to Port when I go visit Portugal because you can get them in buckets in the summertime, like huge buckets, and they're already pre-marinated with like garlic and wine, and you just reheat them and like my friends and I will devour that and have beer with it. But we're not talking about the big guys. We're talking about like the little tiny little ones because the other ones they taste like really fatty,
That's
but the small ones
what I
taste
would
like,
think, right? Because there's no bones. It's just like
yeah,
gooey, right?
yeah.
See,
Even
now,
my little cousin in eighth grade, she's in eighth grade now, but she tried it when she was 5 or something like that, or 6. When she went there and she liked them too. So like you just stick it out with like a knitting like a needle and then just suck it back.
well, Niles tried it, and I was very proud of him because he's not very open, like to new situations and social situations. So I thought he did really well. First of all, he did really good with his trip,
Yes,
right? He did
I'm
really
so
well.
proud of him.
I am very proud of him.
I was so happy. I'm like, oh, he made it. He's there. He overcame his fears and like whatever. Like he accomplished everything. Like, yeah,
We
I
also
was so.
learned tonight that he's not a virgin. That was news to me, right? I didn't know, because I know he said that he hasn't had a lot of relationships and he's not, big on opening himself up to people like that. So we did figure out that he's not a virgin, which I was a little surprised. Good for him, right? Like I feel like good for you, guy. Like you are definitely making being in your situation a little more understood for people like me, right? Like I was just like, oh, okay. So I want to get your idea on their first meet because they looked giddy and happy and touchy feely. How did you feel? Do you feel like this is a legitimate connection? Because we were talking about this before and we were a little skeptical about Matilda. So I want to get your idea of the first meeting, their interaction, and what you thought about it.
I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence with it because a person can like a, a person, if they know what they want, they're going to play the role. They're going to play the part until they get what
Okay.
they want, right? So what she wants is a ring on her finger and getting out of there and going to the United States, right? So she's going
Yeah.
to play up to it, right? So she's going to show that love and affection and whatnot, right? So if she is acting, bravo. She's doing a really excellent job, and
Well,
Tiger really needs to learn a thing from her. But
she looks like she looks like she likes him, but again,
yeah,
I've seen Broadway shows and they've convinced me of lots of things. Like so
exactly.
like you said, if she's acting, because she said when she was getting ready, she's like, I'm gonna call him daddy. He said
That's
he wanted
true.
me to call her daddy. And I was like, oh, so she's playing up the situation. So that made me think about it because she was telling her friends, and I was like, why are you telling them what you're gonna do? It made me think of, look at her like, so why are you telling them what you're gonna do? And it was a lot, right? And I'm really worried about him because I feel like he's so vulnerable, right? And being in a new place, flying for the first time, leaving the country for the first time, and doing all that he's doing, and then he has the stress of because he's afraid of her, right? I don't know if you figured this out, but he's afraid of her. He's scared to tell her that they're not actually getting married, which I'm worried about because what if
Even
she
her
already?
brother told her she's got a temper. Like,
Yeah,
don't piss her
she,
off.
well,
So for her family
like
member to
to
tell you
say,
that,
I like to say any woman can have a temper based on the way that you act and treat her, right? Like if you treat a woman badly, the nicest, kindest, sweetest woman in the world can have a temper because you have to treat women the way that, they should be treated. But the fact that she's got a hot temper, that's a little scary for me. And I know it's scary for Niles because telling a woman who's already planned a wedding and told people to come, hey, we're not going to get married, I can only imagine how that. I'm assuming items will go flying across the room. They'll be screaming, and I don't know how he's going to be able to tolerate those type of interactions, right? Like that's not, he controls the interactions that he has because of his situation. So I don't know how he's going to deal with, dealing with an angry woman, right? Like, cause that's not easy to deal with. When you piss off a woman and you have an angry woman coming at you, that's not an easy situation to be in.
no, that's a like run for the hills situation, but he's got nowhere to run because he doesn't know the location. Like he's not familiar with it.
I don't know. I'm worried. Oh, and Matilda's brother was also there, and he
Yeah.
was telling him some expectations. So I feel like everyone is just very pressuring of Niles, and again, it's normal when you meet a woman's family. They have their reservations too, right? Like the brother has his reservations. He wants to make sure that the woman or his sister and the man that his sister is considering being with is gonna be good for her, and I get that. But I just feel like this is a lot to put on him right in the beginning. He just got there, right? There's not a lot going on, because I think that they're not gonna have sex the first night, is what he said. Isn't that what he said?
Yeah, man, I don't buy that. Those scenes in the bed, I don't
I
know.
mean, if he has self control, because actually Vea said the same thing, right? Vea was like, "No, we're not gonna do anything the first night. It's a little awkward."
Because what did she say? She's like, "Oh, I can't. No, you can't join me in the shower." And she's just like, "Oh, I can't help thinking about Rory at the hotel. That's because you're banging him like in the States. That's why you're just stringing poor Sonny along."
the poor guy, he put rose petals on the bed. Like he has a very different um idea of what's going to go on and what type of relationship this is going to be. And I just feel like he didn't even know what foreplay was. So I feel like when he realizes that Rory is there in the situation that he's in, I don't think it's going to go well, right? I feel like he's this little innocent kid. He's like, oh, I thought you meant we were going to play cards. I was like, oh my gosh, she is going to destroy him, right?
Yeah, poor thing. When I said cards, I'm like, oh no.
No, Allie said she was on top of, yeah, Matilda was on top of him. And I think it's pretty clear that Niles is excited about her. He said at the airport, like, don't film below the waist. You know, he was excited, you know, to see her and to be with her. So yeah, I think her being so open and on top of him, like, you know, it is what it is.
Like
I
on
think
the
that,
prowl.
yeah. And I think that she knows that that attraction is there. She can play that to her advantage. She knows that, you know, he just flew across the world for a woman that he thinks is beautiful, you know, and she is beautiful. So it's not hard to convince a man, you know, to be intimate with a woman he thinks is beautiful. It's not difficult. That's why there's so many issues with men these days in cheating. It's not difficult to convince a man to do something like that. So, oh, so I want to talk about Brian and Ingrid because we watched them tonight and things are kind of looking up. Oh, so there was a story that went out. I think Alexa Pomegranate posted it. Um, that the his ex-wife, the one that hired the men to attack him and shoot him, she actually got 7 years in prison for that. And then I think one of the men got arrested, and then the other man didn't get arrested. So we're finding out now a little bit more about that. And then tonight, Brian said, "Oh well, I feel like my punishment for selling drugs was, you know, I had to give up my hands and my legs." And I feel like as he goes on and he tells more of the story, I do have a little more empathy. I do feel a little bad for him because, you know, there's plenty of drug dealers that still can walk, you know, like, so I don't think that he deserved what happened to him. I don't think that he's an amazing human being either. Like, I'm kind of on the fence. Like, I don't think that he's just this amazing guy, but I also feel like he definitely, his punishment didn't fit the crime, right?
Both Cara and I have said he's overplaying this whole like woe is me, right? And this is what happened. He's overplaying it to his advantage to make women feel sorry for him. Like every situation he puts himself in. So it's just like, no, you put like you put your hand in the cookie jar and you got caught. Like,
I
like we all
mean, you're
know what we all know as human beings. We all know the pros and cons to that thug life or the straight and narrow life. We all know what the pros and
oh
cons are.
yeah,
You decide to go
you're
with the
right.
car, like you decided to go that life and take that life. So you know what the consequences were to that.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I grew up in the rougher part of Baton Rouge, and you know, there was two paths you could take, right? You could go to school and go to college and do what you do better. And what my path was leave. I just want to leave. And then I have kids that I grew up with that are either in jail or dead.
You make your own
And
life choices.
but you have to make, you're right, the choices you make. And I knew what choices and what roads would end up where.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
he chose this life, and you know, now he feels bad about his choice. And I don't want, like, I don't, that's why I don't like to play God. I don't want to be the one, like, I couldn't be a jury or a judge. I don't want to be the one to choose how people are punished. I don't like to do that. Like, because I feel like he got his punishment and it's harsh, you know, and he's
Mhm.
looking at it as, I don't know if this was what I should have gotten. But it's like, if you make your choices and your choices lead you to a certain place,
You
you have
made
to own.
your choices. You made your bed. Now lie in it.
Well, right,
So,
you have to own the choices that you make. And I think that he's a really good person of narrative control. Like, he only tells you just enough information to make you feel empathy and sympathy for him before he lays on the real information. And he's
exactly.
like, but he wants you to feel bad or to have a soft spot for him.
Exactly.
And then that's when, then once that soft spot is developed, he starts dropping information on you that, you know, a normal person will run the hell away from. But he's made that little soft blanket for himself, and then he's like, oh well, they won't run because they'll feel bad. I don't know. I think that he's definitely manipulating Ingrid, and I'm worried because I just from last week I didn't like the way he showed up at her house and like let himself into her family and meeting her child when she had already said she wasn't ready for that. I just feel like you have to respect people's boundaries. And that was a boundary that she set. And when I saw that he wouldn't respect her boundaries, I was like, see, that's an issue for me.
But we know why he did it, right? You know why he did it. So then it would be an opening for her to start talking to him again and
Well, yeah,
showing a
more
different
space,
side.
the more space she took, the less likely that things were going to continue and go forward. And he knew that. And a lot of times, see, this is what manipulators do. You notice when you're with a narcissist, they want to limit communication with outside people because outside people can tell you, hey, you know, it's not normal that he tells you what time to be home. It's not normal that he doesn't let you have your own bank card or he doesn't let you drive. Like those outside interferences will get, you can get through to the person. So the more they can control who's there and how they are perceived, the better. So he wanted to make sure she didn't have too much time alone to think about it.
In her thoughts.
Exactly, because when you're at home by yourself or you're with your child, or you're watching your TV show and you're just letting things marinate in your mind, that's the best possible time to make good decisions because you think back from the beginning and you're like, it's not normal. Like, well, why? Then you're just going over the things in your mind. And he knew the longer that she had to let things marinate in her mind, the less likely that they were going to move forward. So he had to interrupt that personal time that she had to think. And that's what people do. When you want to manipulate someone, the less time that they have to think about a situation, the better. Because you can manipulate a person who hasn't had a chance to think about it.
Oh, but I don't know about most women, but for me, my mind is running a mile a minute. Like I'm like my mind's always running. It's like the hamster in the hamster wheel. It's always going, except when I'm sleeping. But it's always on the run. It's always going. So
I
for
mean,
her,
yeah, I think, well, the
a
way that
woman's
he
mind's
blind,
never idle. That's for sure.
well, I think he purposely blindsides her with lots of information at a time and then like inserts himself and so she can't think about it. She doesn't have time to react. Because as soon as he told her the first bit of information, he's like, I feel like you're judging me. And I feel like he keeps on so she doesn't have any time. Because before she could process it, he wanted to make her feel bad for the way that she felt. And I was like, well, give her time to process. She's allowed to feel angry, upset, betrayed. Like people's feelings are their own and they need to be able to own them.
Well, her
And that's
feelings
another
are
thing that
valid,
manipulative,
right?
yeah, that's what manipulative people do. They tell you how you're supposed to feel. And that was something that I had to learn younger. Like people will be like, well, you can't get mad. And I'm like, but I can. They're like, well, you shouldn't be mad. And I'm like, but I should. I get to decide if I'm mad or hurt or angry. You don't get to decide that for me. And I think a lot of manipulative people, they control people's feelings because they're
He's
like, oh,
giving me
well,
Gareth vibes. He's giving me Gareth vibes from Sister Wives, not like or
oh,
whatever.
Garrett.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's
He's
giving me that, and
convinced.
I've said it from the beginning. He's been to Brazil 30 times.
Yeah. And probably only twice as a tourist. Every other time was as a sex tourist. Right? Like it's
Exactly.
everything about him is just so out there. And I don't know. He rubs me the wrong way. And it's like I have empathy for him just because he's a human being, and I don't want anything like what he's going through to happen to anyone because I was raised, you know, in the church, and I just believe that everybody is good. It's to some extent somewhere deep down, you know. So I don't want him to feel like he can't find love. But again, we found out online the other day that he was 26 years old on his third wife. Did y'all hear that?
Right?
He was
Yeah.
26 years old on his third wife, and the second wife is the one that is hired the people. And it's like, what are these women? What are you doing to these women that one of them thought that it would be helpful to just end you? You're like, how are you treating these women at such a young age?
See, it's not us. It's not the women's problem because it's, again, 3 times, engaged 4 times. It's a him problem, not a woman, like, not the woman that he's with problem. It's a him problem. He's
Yeah,
got issues.
all these women are different. They're from different places. They're from different walks of life. The common denominator and issue is Brian. They all found out after being with him that he's someone that they don't want in their lives. That's the common denominator. And I feel like he doesn't take responsibility. I feel like when he tells his story, he's like, oh, well, I feel judged and I feel like they don't fully understand me. And I was like, well, they would understand you better if you were actually honest. People can't understand what they don't know. You
It's
would
all
have to tell
him.
them.
It's all about him. Me.
Yeah, I
Validate my feelings.
get that
Like
too. I
validate
get that
how
too.
I like what I can do, what I can't do. Validate this. So,
So speaking of all about me, let's talk about Lauren real quick. So
oh Lord.
Lauren dropped the bomb on Faith. We knew that he had gonorrhea, and then he said, "I want to get your opinion." He said, "I told her I was sleeping with people, but English is her second language, so she thought sleeping in the bed with people meant sleeping, and it was lost in translation." Do you buy that? Do you buy that she didn't know what that meant? Because that is a term in our language. We put two and two together, and we say, "I'm sleeping with that person." That actually is not what that term means. So, how do you feel?
If he knows that English is not a second language, like English is a second language for her, he should have been more specific. But like by sleeping with this, I'm sleeping with this X and X person, which means that I like he could have gone into more detail with it. Like in case, so do it wouldn't get lost in translation, basically, and then she would know. Is she expected to know certain slang that like North America uses? Absolutely not, right? Like she's busy. She doesn't have time to watch TV and watch movies and whatever.
I,
She's busy.
my
Like
my issue is, if you're in a relationship with someone, you should be open and honest if you're sleeping with other people. Because I
yes,
know there's people that are in open relationships, polyamorous relationships, non-monogamous relationships, but the one thing they don't do is sleep with people behind each other's back. They know. You might not necessarily text them and say, "Hey, I'm about to sleep with someone," but I'm pretty sure it comes up in conversation. "Where were you last night?" "Oh, I was with this person." Like, I feel like it's not something, because if you're in an open or a non-monogamous relationship, there's no reason to hide it, right? And I feel like communication is the only thing that would make those types of relationships work. And I feel like Lauren, he said from the beginning he doesn't believe in monogamous relationships, but for some reason Faith doesn't know that. I feel like
yeah.
if I'm trying to date somebody and we're just getting to know each other, I think it would be very pertinent information for me to say, "Hey, we'll be dating, but I'll be dating people other than you." I think that's something that you should get out of the way early,
Mm-hmm.
because everybody's not okay with
Yeah.
that, right? Like, everybody is not okay with sharing, right?
Yeah. No. Uh, like, I don't know. He could have been more specific when he's like, this is what I'm looking for in an open relationship, which means this. But didn't they meet on a dating profile? Wouldn't that have the information on there? Is what I'm
Oh, that's a
guessing.
good question. I don't know. I'm not on a dating profile, but you're right. When you open up a profile, because I've seen screenshots of Scott's profile and Ed's,
Oh, please.
they do put, like, if they're gay or bi or lesbian or polyamorous. That is stuff that's listed on the dating profile. So yeah, we should ask for a screenshot of what his dating profile looks like. But again, I have to stress, English is a second language to Faith. What if she doesn't know what non-monogamous means?
But wouldn't there be, depending on the dating app, wouldn't there be like a little question mark right beside it? Or then you can like put it into like your phone to see what it means?
Yeah, there's a translator. Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
translation for it. Hold
Like I
on.
just read it.
Someone just commented that Ing- Ingrid and her friends are sex workers, and that's something that Brian said. Huh? That's interesting. I mean, okay, so he goes to Brazil frequently, and I know some people frequently travel to countries where prostitution is easy and affordable. But I don't know. Do you get that vibe from Ingrid? I don't get that vibe from her.
I don't know because wouldn't she be living more of a more in like a bigger city and more of a lavish
Well, right.
lifestyle? She
She kind of
was.
lives in the country. How many
Yeah.
customers would you get living in the middle of nowhere? The most successful sex workers live in, like, big cities like LA, New York, Vegas, where the clientele. is big. You know, you have
Exactly.
so many people visiting, you have so many people, you know, that are here today, gone tomorrow. So that's easy, you know, easy new clients.
Gosh,
I don't know.
airports, near airports, like in Sao Paulo or like Sao Paulo, Brazil, or Brasilia, or whatever, near an airport hub. Or
Huh. So, okay.
Rio.
So Jay Queasy says that this was on Reddit. Okay. So I got to go on Reddit and catch up because I didn't see that. I'm interested in seeing that, but I have to raise my eyebrow a little bit because I know things between Brian and Ingrid are probably not great. And I always say this all the time, you know, exes rarely have anything positive to say about each other. So it's very possible. Like I've been watching Sophie and Rob going, like Sophie has been like saying that Rob is gross and doesn't shower. It's like when people want to be rid of someone or they want to break up with someone, they always have something bad to say. And I'm like, well, if a man didn't shower regularly, what would possess you to marry him? It's weird.
Exactly.
So it's like,
There's
so I always
never
question.
anything positive to say about exes, let's be honest, people. So,
Right. So when people are no longer together or we know things are going north or south, I just wonder when they say these things, how much of it is anger versus truth, right? Because a lot of times when people break up, they always say these horrible things. Like calling someone a sex worker is pretty mean, you know, if they're not, because she's a mother, right? Like that would be a mean thing to insinuate. But
and
you
she's
know,
such a big deal over the whole, like, his past lifestyle. Like, they kind of go hand in hand almost, right? Like,
well, wait, do you think? Because okay, look, he's been to Brazil over 30 times. Do you think that he was going to Brazil to visit sex workers? Do you think that that's why
possibly.
he frequents the area?
Possibly.
I'm,
Because when you land, depending on where you're coming from, you'll land from in a major airport like in Sao Paulo or Rio or whatnot. And yeah, if he goes there in Carnival, whoop, party time.
I mean, he definitely said that he loves being there and he loves the women there, right? Like
Yeah,
we know this. This is from his lips to our ears. We know that he has said he loves going there. He goes there frequently. Most of his ex fiancées and a couple ex wives were from there. We know that he frequents that place. So for him to say she's a sex worker, you know, that doesn't make it true, but it also makes you wonder: is this why you've been frequenting Brazil as much as you have? Because there's lots of different places that you can visit, and there's women everywhere you go. Or is it that the women there are more open to a man in a wheelchair? Right? Like there's a lot. So him saying that, I'm not gonna just jump and believe that that's true about Ingrid. It actually makes me feel like there's more questions about him,
yeah,
because if she is a sex worker, that means that you knew ahead of time and you were dating her. So that makes me think that you were dating other sex workers
yeah.
in Brazil as well. So it kind of like, I know he's trying to deflect, but it just makes me ask more questions about him in the end.
Maybe she was on a sugar baby website. Who knows?
Oh, so Alexa Pomegranate posted that he was driving as an Uber driver and he vented about it to a customer. Oh, I gotta
Oh,
find the video. I
we gotta
didn't
find
know.
it. We gotta find
I
it.
got gotta find the video. So okay, so I guess Alexa Pomegranate, I'm gonna send her a DM so we can find the video. I want to talk about that. So if he was talking to a customer in Uber, that means he's back here
Yeah.
because he drives Uber here. So that means he's back here. So that must mean there's not much going on with him and Ingrid. Oh, and did you see there's two new couples we haven't met yet?
I know. I was just like, because I sent you the picture of them. I'm like, wait, who are these people?
Yeah,
I
there's two new couples.
forgot about them.
Well, I feel like we have so many different couples we're shooting back and forth with now. So that makes me wonder, maybe something between two people isn't going to work out,
Mhm.
and then they'll transition off, and then we'll transition into the two new couples. Both of them are from Florida. So we got a lot of Florida representation this season. There's already Vea, who's from Florida, and then I believe the two additional couples are ones from Florida as well. So yeah, I feel like there's a lot of Florida representation this season, which is interesting. You know, I think that's because no one is working out. Oh yeah, so yeah, I mean, I believe that. I think that a lot of these, like the Rory and
Yeah,
Sunny and
God, I hope
Vea
so.
situation,
I
I
hope he
think it's
becomes
gonna
a
blow up.
worker.
Yeah, I think it's gonna blow up, and he's gonna tell her to take her ass home. I
Yeah,
think I kind of feel that way, and because we've seen a little bit of the preview from the beginning. He's like screaming, and he's like, "How dare you bring this man here?" So I feel like that might actually be him, like telling her to get back on the plane and go home, and
hmm
things are not gonna last very long. I mean, we're only on episode 6. There's probably like 18 episodes.
Yeah,
So
and maybe
we're
10
pretty.
years lately, if we're lucky, we won't have to hear ever again.
Yeah, yeah. This episode was good though. Okay, so we're gonna come back and talk tomorrow about The Other Way, which is good news, George, to evacuate tomorrow. Don't go to Disney. No, we're not in evacuation. And actually, Disney is still open on during the hurricane. That's a whole other thing. But okay, so we're gonna come back tomorrow and we're gonna talk about The Other Way and I Love a Mama's Boy. And I think Thousand Pound. Oh, if you guys are a fan of Thousand Pound Sisters, the Slanton sisters are back this week. I believe on Tuesday. If you guys want to catch up, I know that Tammy's really skinny now. That's cool. And and 1,000 Pound Best Friends are going to be back at some point this week. I don't remember which date. Maybe also Tuesday. I'm not sure. But we'll be back tomorrow. And we're going to be talking about The Other Way and I Love a Mama's Boy, which I'm already hooked on. And then thank you, everybody, for joining. Oh, make sure you're following my co-host, Gina. She's tagged in this video. I have a date that Dee Dee will be back. It's less than a month from now, so I'm very, very happy that Dee Dee will be back. And actually, Cara was going to join us tonight, but she had to work late. So Cara would have been here, but she'll be here tomorrow. But yeah, Dee Dee will be back in less than a month. I'm excited for that. Make sure you're following Gina. She'll be tagging this video, and she'll be on all social media platforms tagged as well. Make sure you're following me on all social media platforms at George Mossey, GeorgeMossey.com. You will get your podcast type in the George Mossey Show. Thanks for joining us. Everybody have a wonderful night, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye. Good night.